If you don't know, my name is Tracy Elliott. I'm the president and CEO of the Anti-Cruelty Society. While with the recent spikes in COVID-19 and with the Delta variant, we're hosting this behind the scenes session via Zoom, but we really look forward to being able to do these in person once again in the near future here in River North. I'm excited to welcome our Humane Heroes, who are our leadership giving circle. Those are individuals who generously support us with an annual gift of at least $2,400. Welcome. Also joining our members of the Rose Faye Thomas Society. Those are individuals we recognize who have made society a part of their estate with a planned gift. And members of the Open Door Sustainers Club who give monthly at any amount. And you are very, very important to us. Some of you have been doing that for more than a decade, and we're very grateful for your support and for your loyalty. And lastly, other friends and supporters and partners, staff and board members, we welcome all of you. We're delighted to have you here. I want to recognize our mission advancement team. They work really hard to put all of this together, both content and the invitations and the tech and everything that it takes to pull off an event such as this. So thanks, and I want you to just wave when I say your name: Jennifer, Bridget, Rhett, Charla, and Emily. We have a great, great team. And we have other staff members here. Some of you have already waved. If you haven't, wave here. We have some great colleagues here today. Before I begin, I'd like to share a brief update about our work and how you have helped us adapt to the turmoil of the past 19 months. Then what we'll do is we'll welcome our Chief Operation Officer and Vice President of Quality and Best Care, Darlene Duggan, and Tamara Wagenknecht, our Director of Field Services. And you're going to hear mostly from them today, and I got some phenomenal information to give you. One quick housekeeping note: we are recording the session for those who are unable to join us this afternoon. And we have muted all of you, so don't have any competing background noise. You'll have a chance at the end to ask any questions of any of us. And also you can use the chat function, if you know how to do that, to ask questions during the presentation. And then we will make sure and answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of the presentation. I'm going to give you just a few highlights of where we are as an organization right now, because you are our friends, our donors, our supporters, and we want you to know how we're doing. So the past 19 months have obviously presented a lot of challenges, just like it has to all of you as individuals and to all businesses and all enterprises. But I've been very inspired by the resiliency and the passion of my team members here at the Anti-Cruelty Society. Also that of our donors, our partners, our directors, our board members, who many of them are here today, and friends like you. It's been really remarkable how committed people have been to making sure that we continue to care for animals no matter what. So together we have renewed hope to underserved communities by providing food, veterinary care, and other resources, fulfilling the mission that our founders set for us 122 years ago. We are very close to our 123rd birthday. In recent months, we've safely reopened our doors to the public for adoptions for the veterinary clinic and other services by appointment. Last year, we found over 4,265 animals, new families, using mostly a virtual hybrid adoption process, a brand new approach that we had to create in the midst of the pandemic. We recruited 800 new fosters, 800 new people who are willing to take animals into their homes and give them respite from the shelter, and placed over 1,400 pets in foster homes. If I'm included and my pets are included in those, then we also had failures, because I fostered 2 during the pandemic and failed at both, and they're now at home. We have always been committed to helping animals in need, but during the past year, we've realized that humans and their pets needed more help than ever to make sure that they could stay together and thrive together. So, and I want you to prick your ears to hear this, we provided 638,000 pet meals through our pop-up pet food pantries by working with partners in Chicago and the most under-resourced communities of our city. We've been working with community leaders like Alderman Anthony Beal of the 9th Ward in the Pullman and Roseland neighborhoods, and Alderman Roderick Sawyer from the 6th Ward in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. We work with human service organizations such as Metropolitan Family Services, the City of Chicago, and the Chicago Greater Food Depository. We're proud that those efforts were recently recognized as we received the 2021 COVID-19 Game Changer Award in recognition of our pop-up pet food pantries and support in the community from Metropolitan Family Services. So we're very proud of that. As part of our ongoing effort to provide care beyond the walls of our shelter, we restarted our wellness fairs just a few months ago, and we've so far provided 400 pets with vaccines and basic veterinary care outside of the shelter walls. We're excited to work with partners in the community to help families care for their pets, especially in areas where veterinary care is extremely limited. We're planning 2 more wellness fairs in October as part of our ongoing community outreach efforts. Through these initiatives, we've learned of the community need, and the lack of resources in areas of the city is very severe. So we'll continue to offer food and veterinary care while working with our partners to advance animal care and other human resources into the future. While all this was going on outside our walls, we not only continue to provide love and care for the animals in the shelter, but we actually are doing things to improve the quality of our animal care that, as far as I know, no other shelter in the industry is doing. Our fundamental commitment as an organization is to provide the very highest level of care for every animal from the moment that they enter our care until they achieve the best possible outcome. That, I promise you, will never change. So before we start our program, I'd like to remind you to take a moment to read our fall magazine. It's right here. You all should have received it. If you didn't receive it, please let us know. To be honest with you, it's amazing. You'll learn about the profound passions that the staff of this organization has every day, because this entire magazine is about them and their love for animals and how hard they work to care for animals. So please make sure you take a look at that. Now we have a brief 2-minute video introducing field services, and that will be followed by today's conversation about our field service outreach programs by Darlene and Tamara. Take it away.
In our almost 125 years of service to the animals of Chicago, the Anti-Cruelty Society has been deeply aware of the variety of needs of our community. And while our location at Grandin LaSalle is the bedrock of our organization, we have also been pioneers in bringing shelter services directly to the community. Since the beginning, our field service team has created community-based access points to our multitude of services to help people and their pets. The Anti-Cruelty Society understands that access to care is often a barrier for achieving a life worth living for some families and their pets. And our field service efforts are aimed at eliminating some of those barriers. Looking at a typical day of work for our field specialists will illustrate just how we go about doing that. Some owners need to relinquish their pets but are unable to get themselves to the shelter. Our field service team does regular owner surrender pickups and field relinquishments. We receive calls from concerned citizens regarding stray animals. Often people see strays in their neighborhood and are unable or incapable of catching them directly. Our field service team will respond to stray calls and use our expertise and equipment to safely and humanely seize the animal. Our field service specialists are also trained in humane TNR, trap, neuter, and return, and help around the city controlling the community cat population. Our field service team also takes on what we call compassionate care cases. These are cases that we find in the field that do not necessarily need to end in relinquishment, but with attention and resources, we can keep the pet in the home it already has. For example, we will deliver food, litter, treats, toys, and other care items to a senior on a fixed income. We may also bring expert training to a family dog that needs some basic manners help. Or we will consult with our veterinarians regarding treatable medical issues that are creating a financial barrier to care for an owner. So, as our organization that was founded on the principles of compassion and community, we are proud of the work Field Services does and look forward to our continued impact.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tracy, for that intro, and thank you to all of our attendees. I'm excited today to share with you the very impactful work that our field service team does. As the video illustrated, and as Tamara and I will speak about in a minute, this department is at the heart of our compassion. But before we dive into the conversation, I just want to give a very brief intro of the team members that we have. We currently have four staff folks on our field service team: Gilbert, Veronica, and Anya, and of course, Tamara. Gilbert has been with the Anti-Cruelty Society now for 16 years. So many of you probably have seen him in one capacity or another around the shelter. But the thing that sticks out about Gilbert is he has impeccable animal handling skills. I would go so far as to say, and I think Tamara, you would agree, that he has probably the best in the building. When we have tricky situations, both out in the field as well as in the building, he's one of the first calls that we make. So it's incredible that he is representing our team in this way. Veronica, whom you've seen in the video, she's been with the Anti-Cruelty Society for about 3 years now. And the very interesting piece about Veronica is that she is our organization's only approved humane equine investigator, which is really, really incredible and special, since our organization was founded almost 122 years ago, or I suppose almost 123 years ago now, regarding workforce issues in the city of Chicago. So that's a really incredible tie to our past. And Anya is the most recent addition to our team, and she really brings some incredible behavior knowledge to the table. She is a certified professional dog trainer, and she is going to just work wonders for the families and the community that we serve in the field that need behavior assistance and behavior help. And then, of course, we have Tamara, who is our director of field services, and she's been with the organization about 20 years now. And again, many of you have probably seen her in the shelter. She originally started out on the shelter side of things, on the operations side, handling the animals in the building. And then about a year and a half ago or so, as she was poised to step into a different position, the pandemic hit. And the organization overall, but especially our field service team, really had to pivot and pivot quickly. And Tamara was there and stepped up and took over the reins. And and she tells it much better than I. But as she found, leading the field service team, it really opened up a side of compassion for her, or a layer of compassion that she didn't even know she had. And when she and I had first shared that conversation, it was incredible to me, because I consider Tamara to be one of the most compassionate people in our building. So for her to have found additional compassion was really, really special. So with that, let's dive into it. Tamara, if you don't mind, I'm gonna start asking you some questions here so that we can learn more about what field service does. So in the video, we heard a little bit about, and in the intro to your staff folks, we heard a little bit about humane investigators, that your staff are humane investigators. Can you tell us a little bit about what that actually means and what that looks like?
Sure. Well, in the state of Illinois, to become an Illinois approved humane investigator, you have to take a course and pass an exam that's given by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. and then be recertified every 2 years. So every 2 years you have to take the course and pass the exam in order to be approved by the state of Illinois to do this work. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how to become one. But for me, and in my opinion, to be successful and to be effective in this field of work, an individual has to have a set of character qualities. And those are be passionate about the work. The work that we do out in the field, it's fantastic, it's interesting, it's amazing stuff that we get the opportunity to do, but it also is really quite challenging. It's challenging physically, and it's also challenging emotionally to the heart, you know, and what we see every day. So it's that passion for this work that really fuels our motivation to keep going at it every day, coming to work and doing the work. And another quality an individual should have is just the commitment to making a difference out in the community, and a difference in the lives of the animals that we come across every day. And then as well, a person needs to be determined to influence change for the better for our communities, and for the animals that are out in our communities. And lastly, an individual should have courage. They really do need to have courage to address the difficult situations that we come across nearly every day. It really is nearly every day. So. Yeah. And I do have to let our viewers know, and thank you so much for coming today. But to let you know that this team that we've built, this group of 3 individuals and myself, each of us hold these character qualities. We're a strong unit, we're a dedicated unit, and we're certainly committed to the work and very, very passionate about it. So. Yeah. We are in good hands.
It's an exciting team to watch and to be able to work alongside, no doubt.
Thank you.
The mission of our organization is to help animals in need, you know, very generally speaking. So now, taking what you've just told us about humane investigators and character qualities and, you know, the logistics too of becoming a humane investigator, how does your team, being humane investigators, how do they actually help care for animals in the community? How does that translate to the work that you do every day?
Yeah, of course. Well, the role of a humane investigator is to go out and discover if there's a problem or not. You know, we get a fair number of complaints, and it's our responsibility to go out and see if those complaints are valid. And so under Section 3 of the Humane Care for Animals Act, the owner's duties, it gives, you know, state of Illinois has given pet parents, you know, here is the standard of care that you have to meet, and these are your responsibilities. And so we go out and see whether that's occurring for the animal or not. For example, it's sufficient quantity and good quality food and fresh water. You know, quality of food doesn't necessarily mean high brand, high end food, but certainly it needs to be very, you know, species specific. You can't go out and feed rabbit food to your dog and expect your dog to be well. And fresh water. You know, if you got a 120-pound Mastiff, providing a pint-size water dish isn't sufficient for that size of dog, which can be minor, but that certainly we need to educate our pet parents about quality of care and raising the level of care that they have. Another matter that we look into is if an owner has their dog as an outside dog for extended periods of time, or if it's permanently an outside dog. The owner is responsible for providing adequate shelter against the weather, against wind, rain, insulated against the cold, and, you know, and if it's outside during hot weather, a dog needs to have access to shade, needs to have access to the shelter to get outside of the sun, and so we check on that. Another point that Illinois requires of a pet parent is that they need to provide veterinary services to prevent suffering. And as well, a pet parent has to provide humane care and treatment. A good example of humane care and treatment is a case Gilbert went out on. Very, very quickly, I'll tell the story. The case was generally a general neglect. They're not taking care of their dog. The dog deserves to be treated better than what these pet parents were doing. So Gilbert goes out to the location. The individual allows him into the home, and he's able to see the living conditions that the dog is in, and it certainly was in violation. The dog was being kept in a crate that was too small for its size. The crate, there was evidence, clear evidence that the animal was living in filth. There was feces and urines inside the crate. The bars on the crates were coated with feces, and then there was feces outside of it. And this wasn't fresh. This had been there for a while.
So clearly not the dog was just hanging out there for an afternoon, but yeah.
Exactly. And oh, well, I got caught up and didn't get home in time. This was the living conditions of this dog. So we worked with that individual and with regards to the size of the crate and the living and improving the living conditions of that particular dog. So that's an example of humane care, humane treatment. But we also have to go out and review if a dog is tethered outside. Illinois requires that if you are going to tether your dog, you have to ensure that the lead is at least 10 feet long, that the animal isn't being tethered where it could get caught up with other dogs if there's multiple dogs being tethered outside. The type of collar that's used, you can't use a prong collar to tether a dog because that could cause injury. And how you tether the dog, that would put the animal at risk, such as if you were to tether it to a railing on a stairwell, that the animal could get injured or lose its life because it could choke. And an example of that was Veronica went out, one of our team members, Veronica, that you saw in the video, went out on a call. The call was exactly that. The way the animal was being tethered by its owner was putting the animal's life at risk. And sure enough, she arrives at the location and she's witness to it. She's seen it happen before her eyes. And the dog's chain was so kinked and so tight because the dog had been tethered to the railing that leads up to the deck. And the dog, it was so tight that it couldn't move. It was just sitting still. It couldn't lie down. And it had to keep its head a certain way. And it was a rather rambunctious dog. It was a bull terrier, and a young bull terrier. And he was just moments away from getting pulled up to where he was sitting just on the back of his leg with his back two legs, and threatening, then obviously at risk for choking. So that immediately a phone call to the police and led to an impoundment of that particular dog.
Okay.
So it matters. It matters that we show up. It really does. And that is case in point of why it's important that we're out in the field.
Absolutely. So you mentioned impounding there with the tethered dog. What is that? What does that mean? Do we impound, or how does that work?
Let me grab some water. Sorry. Sure, impounding. That means taking possession of the animal and getting it out of a situation because its life is in jeopardy. It's doing really poorly. Its safety is at risk, or it's abandoned. And we can, demonstrate that it's abandoned. That the house, there's no one in the house. The house looks empty. The yard is unkept. There's just evidence that we look for to prove that this animal is not being cared for. There isn't somebody living in that building. There's a case that we had not long ago. Gilbert actually took this case again, and the dog's name we eventually called Gilberta. And I know.
No relation, right?
I know. Happens all the time with that guy. So the complaint came in that there was an abandoned dog. It had been there was a house fire, and the dog was left behind in the yard. And reportedly, the dog had been there for several months. And so Gilbert arrives there. Clearly the house is abandoned. It's boarded up. There's been a house fire. There's junk in the yard. And as a matter of fact, you saw the dog in the video. It was that brown dog with the little white on the tips. That was Gilberta. And that was her setting. You saw the junk that she was standing around. And there was a big yellow sticker from the city of Chicago letting, do not enter this house. So Gilbert left a notice. We have to leave a parent violation notice. And we describe what the violation is, and for them to contact us within 24 hours. The dog itself did not look like it had been not receiving food. So it had some food source. If it had been there for months, somebody had been feeding it. And our assumption is that it was the neighbors who had been providing the food and the water for that particular dog. The dog's shelter was underneath the front porch. It would scurry under there for shelter, but it didn't have access to the inside of the house. So next day, Gilbert arrives back at the location, and clearly the dog's still there. Our notice is still there. So we can then impound the dog. And for us as humane investigators, because we have no law enforcement authority, we don't have the ability to issue citations like animal control. So we rely heavily on law enforcement and animal control to help us further our cases along. And so for us to do a legal impound, we have to call the police. Okay. So the police come on scene, and then we tell them, explain to them why we're there, what the violation is, and explain and show them the evidence. And then they agree or not agree, but most often they agree. And so they fill out the report, and then we're able to then legally take the animal off the premises, off the property, and then we take it to Chicago Animal Control for the stray hold, impound hold, along with our police report. So with Gilberta, I mean, that fantastic story. Gilberta went through her stray hold. She was never reclaimed. And so we were able to pull her out of Chicago Animal Care and Control and bring her here and place her up for adoption. And, I have to tell you folks, I was scrolling through, I wanted to do some research on, I knew she had come back into the building, and I wanted to see how she was doing. And, you got to follow up our cases and see how our little babies are doing. And I was scrolling through our database and finally get to her adoption photos. And I was alone in my office, and I just audibly gasped at the transformation of this dog. Because I saw the investigation photos, and she was just so sad, depressed, and sullen looking, and just dirty. Her coat was so dirty and dull, and her eyes were dull. And so this adoption photo showed up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this cannot be the same dog. This could not be the same dog. She was so bright-eyed and so happy. She just had this huge grin on her face, and she was in the arms of her handler while she was getting her photo taken, and her coat was all shiny, her eyes were all bright, and she was alert. And that dog, her body language was just, I am so happy. I am so excited at this place. I'm in a good place. And Gilberta has been adopted. Yes.
Good.
So that's the impact, ladies and gentlemen. That is
that's incredible. And I mean, that's just one story among many, I'm sure. But is that a typical day for your field service staff? Not always. Generally speaking, it's a combination of our field work and our investigations, and it's the combination. Typically it's a combination. Sometimes it can be a full day of just doing field work, just doing special projects, doing some of our compassionate care work that we're doing, or all investigations. But generally speaking, it's a mix. Okay. How does ACS make an impact in the field, and what kind of services do we provide?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Field service is just an extension of all of the multitude of services. We're that access point out in the community. We're taking our services out in the community and letting people know this is what's available to you.
Okay.
And so something we've been doing for years, and I think we're probably one of the last organizations who continue to do this, but we go out and do owner request pickups for those people who can't come into the shelter to surrender their pet, and surrendering to the shelter is their last option. And our welcome team at the front desk, who receive all the phone calls and move the phone calls along to the right departments, they do a fabulous job of getting the people who are most in need of our services, field services, help, getting those people directly to us. And those are individuals that typically have a disability. It's our elderly citizens. It's people who live in underserved areas and are financially disadvantaged and don't have transportation here. And it even could be somebody who had the transportation, but again, given their financial circumstances, they work 3 jobs and they just can't get here during our business hours. And so we can get out there because we come in early in the morning. We often are out there before they leave for work, and so that they can make, we can help them, those individuals as well. So we go out, we pick up animals for field intakes and bring back into the shelter. We do stray pickups. We do, like the video said, we work small projects for trap, neuter, return to the field. And then we also do have some hoarding cases that we work with out in the field. But, and I have to say with the owner request, it not always do those turn out to be intakes. There's a case that we had not long ago, a cat named Kit. And I remember the call coming in and, the woman, she's just like, I can't take my cat's behavior anymore. You must come out and come get my cat. I just can't deal with it anymore. And she was just very upset. And so I sent Veronica out on that call and to go pick up this particular person's kitty cat. And she gets there and she realizes that no, there's options for her. And we have those options here at the shelter. And so she got that. And really what the issue was, the cat's behavior would change when the cat would go in heat. And so, she would get too frisky and feisty and was biting at her hands. And also the woman, she didn't quite have the cat was a very energetic cat. She didn't have toys and puzzle problems that would help relieve that. Exactly.
So kind of sounds like it could have been a quite simple fix there for that behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Veronica got her in touch with our behavior helpline to help manage the behaviors. And then she got her connected with our clinic, got her set up for low-cost spay-neuter. Mm-hmm. And we actually helped her because the woman couldn't bring her cat here. So we went out, picked up her cat, brought it to our clinic, and then we returned it back home. And then the other, because part of the behavior solution recommendation was for her to get toys for this very energetic cat for her. But unfortunately, the woman just doesn't have those kind of funds. So we stocked her with toys. And
great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome. Yeah.
Problem solvers.
There's a great story that you tell about a dog named Dawn. Can you tell us that one?
Sure, Dawn. And you saw Dawn in the video as well. She was the German Shepherd that you saw that was kind of semi-curled and was looking very fearful. That dog, and it's kind of a long story. I hope you guys have some time.
Just the highlights this time around.
I'll try to do the highlights. I think that was located in Inglewood. It's an area that we do certainly an underserved area, under-resourced area that I know Tracy is interested in. Police officer there had been trying to trap that dog for well over a year. A particular law enforcement officer named Officer Lopez was not having any luck getting this dog. The dog had claimed an abandoned building as its new home, so he knew generally where Dawn would hang out. And Chicago Animal Control had tried trapping and just no luck. So Officer Lopez actually, through networking, got Veronica's name and phone number and was told to call her and she will help you. And sure enough, he reached out to her and she said, yep, anytime you need me to show up, just give me a call. And he made that call. She got there 30 minutes later, and there was Dawn. There was at her claimed home. But as soon as she saw Veronica, she took off. We swear these stray animals smell us coming.
They know it.
Notorious. They're notorious for taking off on us. And but they were following, and Officer Lopez put a call out and said, hey, we're trying to capture Dawn. Anybody available to come help? And 6 other squad cars show up. So Veronica, being her little bossy self that she can be, started bossing, instructing the law enforcement officers on what to do.
She took charge. She wasn't being bossy. Yeah. She just took control of the situation.
So she did, and her having spent 8 years as a assistant horse trainer back in her previous life, she knew exactly how to properly corral an animal into a place, the direction that she wanted the animal to go into. So that's what she was informing and taking charge of the law enforcement officers. Eventually, they get Dawn to the place they needed her to be at so that they could smaller confined space. And through her corralling experience, I know I need to make this brief, but through her corralling experience and her lassoing experience with working with horses, because she couldn't quite get close enough to her because of her behavior, she actually lassoed that dog from a distance, and then was able to slip the second lead on. And then with officer assistant, because when you're out in the field, you have to flank dogs that don't have a catch pole to use. You actually have to flank them. One goes up a little ahead, the other one stays behind. And then, again, with her horse training, the officer's asking, well, how are we going to get this German Shepherd who's showing some questionable behavior up into your truck? And she's like, we are running it. We are running this dog into the truck. Let's go. And they went into a horse trot and got Dawn up into the truck. And then the happy outcome of Dawn, her rags to riches story. We did end up having to place her with a rescue group because of placement through us. It just wasn't her best outcome. Best outcome was with a rescue group. And so we got her to a rescue group, and she did get adopted and to an individual who was very financially well off. And so she is.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Love. I can listen to these stories every day, and I do want to make sure that we talk about compassionate care, and specifically hearing you talk about Kit, the kitty that needed to be relinquished according to its owner, but as we found out, there was a quick, kind of an easy fix to it. Makes me think about this concept of intake bias in our field, in which we as a field have this leaning towards the only way to help an animal is if we bring it into the homeless population here and rehome it, which is, as the Kit story illustrates, such is not the case. And I think our compassionate care cases really speak to the field work that we can do to prevent relinquishment and support the community, again, to keep those pets in the homes that they have already. So when does an investigation for your team turn into a compassionate care case? How do you make that determination?
Sure. It really is through our years of experience working in this field and getting to know pet parents and all of that. It's through that experience that when we walk into a situation and we start talking to the pet parent about what's happening, and you get a sense that no, this is a loved animal. This is a part of their family. But due to their circumstances, whatever those circumstances are, they're unable to fulfill their commitments, their responsibilities fully.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we get that understanding of the situation, that punitive action is not the best course here. Compassion is the best course. When we get that and we understand it, then we kick it into gear. And if it's a medical situation, we get as much information and history as we possibly can, because we do have to take that back to our clinic and talk to our veterinarians. It's not something in the field we can say, yes, we can help you, we'll take care of that. If it has to do with spay neuter surgery, that's easy. That's a done deal.
Yeah.
Boom, we start working out the details with the owner and scheduling with our clinic and get that pet into our low-cost spay neuter clinic. But if it's something, a medical treatment, a short-term medical treatment, we have to bring that to our veterinarians and let them decide. This is something we can manage and do.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, not one doctor has ever turned us down. So
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. A good example on a medical case that we had, a dog named Missy, and it was with, the call was, again, the complaint was lack of care, lack of medical care. This dog was an older dog, needed medical attention, and the owner wasn't providing it, and it was suffering from that. So I get to the call, and I discover once I get there that I'm going to assisted living for veterans. And so when I get there, I see this is an individual who he himself has disability. He's has low mobility without a walker, without a scooter. And he's attached to his dog. He goes, I know she needs help, but I don't know where to go. And I don't, I know that there's services for veterans. I heard it on the radio. I believe he was talking about Steve Dale when he was talking about this. And I tried phone numbers and I couldn't get the help I needed. And this dog was just a sweet dog. And what I learned too, that the people at this living facility, that was their pet. That was a community pet. It just didn't belong to this guy. That other people would take this dog, Missy, out for walks. So I knew this dog was loved. It just needed help.
Okay.
And we were able to help provide treatment for Missy, and do her. She needed grooming. We did her grooming. Yep. It unfortunately, after probably about, and we were able to keep the relationship and the bond, and this gentleman was able to keep her, but probably about 6 or 8 months later, his health declined, and he reached out to us and said, I'm no longer able to take care of Missy. My own health is now compromised. Could you come and get her? And we did. And unfortunately, we did learn later that she had cancer. And so, and we were able to, though, place her with a rescue group to go into hospice care because she still had quality of life. Our doctors determined, nope, she has cancer. She doesn't have long to live, but she certainly still has quality of life. And so one of our rescue partners helped her out.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah. Perfect. So hearing all of these stories, it's clear that your team does so much, from investigations to, kind of bringing what the services the shelter offers out into the field, owner pickups and such. In your opinion, what's the most important aspect of what you do?
Sure. I have to, because it goes back to investigations, it's educating and helping people is probably our top number one priority for our team. And then I would have to comment, it's trust building out in the community, letting people know that we're here, we're available, and we're going to show up, and that you can count on us. And I would have to say, lastly, identifying the animals in need and actually providing and helping them, providing the services and helping them out.
Yeah. So not all of us can be rockstar field service agents. So what can we do to help your team?
Oh, sure. The video said it right at the start or in the end, and I think it was at the end. If you see something, say something. A majority of our calls actually end up not really panning out, not having a violation. They're benign calls. But even those calls, because the people who are calling are good Samaritans, they're good people, kind-hearted people, and they're concerned about an animal in their community. And it's our responsibility then to answer those calls of concern and go out and see if there's a problem. So that then becomes our responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
And then, and then it's a relief to the individual who made the call. It's like, hey, we went out there. It's okay. Thank you for calling. The animal is fine. And and they're comforted.
And that speaks back to what you were saying too about building trust in the community. It's not just trust of those that we're helping, but trust of the rest of the community that when we're called upon, we will help, we will respond. So that's incredible. So thank you, Tamara, so much for your passion and the incredible work that your team does. It's obviously so important to the overall mission of the Anti-Cruelty Society. So thank you again for joining us today. Let us open up some questions for Tamara or myself, and we'll bring Tracy back in as well. I don't know if anybody has a question. It looks like we actually do have a couple from Steve here. I'm trying to, can somebody else help me? I'm trying to scroll through my chat. If anybody has it open, I'd appreciate you.
Barbara, you have a question. See your hand. Barbara Provis.
Oh, yeah. Hi. I should know this as a board member, so dock my pay. But how many field service calls do you make in a year?
Well, between field work on average, and again, this year we were changing how we're collecting our stats. So starting November 1st, our collection of stats will be a little bit different going forward for our next fiscal year. But generally speaking, just in our field work, we average about 2,100 animals per year that we come in contact with. And that's
oh my
field
God.
work. That doesn't include investigations. And so that comes out to be about 1,200 or a little above that field visits. And then investigations, our investigations, because it's such a small team and stuff, our investigations aren't as high, but we average about 36 new cases a month. And then those investigations do take time to work through sometimes. One particular investigation that we had where you saw the puppies, that was actually a very large scale investigation that included Cook County Sheriff's involvement. It was a very serious case of neglect, and they ended up surrendering, I think that was 11 altogether. And one of those surrenders was a very seriously injured animal. So that case alone took days to work through, and it takes a lot of time and energy. So between all of our field work and our special projects with TNR and with the hoarding situations, we're not able to do the volume of investigations that we would like to be able to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Just amazing.
Yeah, and I would add just to the relinquishments through our investigations this year. As of August, we're at 42 animals have been relinquished to the shelter and gotten out of, and were pulled out of situations that the level of care wasn't there, and the owner opted to go ahead and surrender to us. And then as of August, we've impounded 11 dogs. And September, truth to this morning, sent them out on a call, and we impounded 3 more dogs this morning. So we're incredibly busy. We are very, very busy.
I want to make sure, Steve, do you mind unmuting and asking your questions? I know you had put some in the chat.
Sure. The first question was, how do you determine if an animal should be removed from a family that cannot properly provide for their pet versus providing the free services, like the food, the training, and the medical support? That was one of them, and I'll wait.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good question, and that kind of goes back to, again, a judgment call. What we're looking for is the bond that the individual, the pet parent, has with the animal, that is really demonstrating that they do have compassion and that there's a strong bond, and that's a bond we want to keep intact. And to other situations, and I don't want to go into the details of the individuals that we come in contact with. where no, this is a situation we need to pull this animal out. We need to do everything we possibly can legally and lawfully to get this animal out of that situation. And so, you know, it's a judgment call on our end, but we know the difference. We certainly do know the difference. And where we want to intervene and where no, this animal needs to be removed.
And a follow-up to
I hope
that.
that answers. Yeah, I hope that answers.
Sure, and then the follow-up is what happens when abuse is reported and confirmed by the investigator? Do the police or other organizations have to get involved when you confront the owner or abuser to rescue the pet?
Yes, we work very closely with law enforcement. We have to, because like I said, we aren't the police. And we're certainly not animal control, but even the police, I mean, you know, we have to get access to the animal. We have to, and so we have to earn trust through diplomacy, professionalism, and respect. Even if we know that this is an individual who's not taking the best care of the animal in the household, we still have to demonstrate that because we need to see it. And we have to have the information and the evidence to prove to law enforcement that we need to move forward on this case. And again, we have to go to the police. We have to go to state's attorneys. We work very closely with Chicago Animal Care and Control. We're on the phone with them every day, talking to them. And their executive director, he answers our calls, and their shelter operations who heads up their investigation team, their field team answers our calls. So we have an excellent working relationship.
And to add to that, sometimes it's actually law enforcement that are calling us in to respond to calls, you know, because their expertise is not necessarily in animal areas. So, you know, if they're calling into question and want to make sure, double check their judgment, they will call Tamara and her team in. So it kind of works both ways with our relationship with law enforcement.
Agreed.
And we had one question in the chat, and this will probably be our last question because thank you, everybody. I know we're over time. But can you talk a little bit about, you know, work that we do with individuals who are experiencing homelessness and their pets? Because obviously a lot of homeless shelters don't allow pets. So, you know, what work have we done with them in the past?
I mean, I'm not sure that we've worked with my team. Other programs may have worked, and Tracy and Darlene, you may want to step in on that. We have helped individuals who are homeless. One of Veronica's case, again, that Veronica and Dr. Medhurst, one of our staff veterinarians, that this was her beloved pet. It was suffering from something that could actually be fixed, surgically fixed, but she could not afford it. And this dog mobility was suffering and was in pain. And the call came in, a Good Samaritan had notified us about it, was also wanting to help this particular individual. And Dr. Medhurst, apologize for the paging, Dr. Medhurst was able to successfully do the surgery. So we work with individuals. Tracy, you may want to talk about if we work with shelters themselves.
Yes, what we, I think the main service we provide is temporary housing for those who are going into temporary shelter while they're finding permanent housing. We have a program called SAFE, where we can bring animals here into the shelter and care for them. The owner does not have to surrender them. They continue to own the animal, but we care for the animal on a short-term basis. 45 days is the typical, while they are waiting for permanent housing or for some other change in their circumstance. That same program also helps people who are in domestic violence situations. If they need to be, to get safe, they need to be removed from the home. A significant percentage of women will not leave a dangerous home if they cannot find a place for their animal to be safe. We provide that. There are other circumstances around which we will help people with temporary housing for their animals until they get permanent homes.
And then real quick, I believe, David, you had a question as well.
David
Then
does. I see David.
we'll wrap up.
Yes, good afternoon. I was wondering, Tamara, is there anything you need or want to continue your work in the community or to enhance it?
Yeah, certainly one of the areas that you saw with Veronica handing out food, that, and I don't have time to tell what we call the Harvey story, because that's an incredible story in and of itself as well. And that came out of an investigation, and she was there handing out food. She had 20 bags and it was gone in minutes. And she showed up with another van full of food. It was gone in less time. And the neighbors were just coming out one after the other. So certainly, in-kind, going to our website, seeing what our in-kind donation needs are, because out in the field, we need access to collars, we need access to food, toys. I have to, very quickly, let me tell you the story about this dog. I know we're over, but we were helping this man who was disabled, who could not leave his house, get cats out of his home. And his home was just completely destroyed by these cats. And it wasn't because he was a hoarder, it was just a handful of cats. And it was just awful. But he had a dog. He had this old schnauzer kind of dog. And we can't, Veronica, she had gone in, I was there, and on one of her first visit, noticed that the dog needed a bed. And so on her second visit, she brought a bed to this dog, this old schnauzer. And this dog never moved from his spot on the floor. We put the bed down. The dog sniffed the bed and just perked up with life and just scrambled and got up on that bed and just frolicked and was just, was the happiest, gleeful dog you can imagine. And he's like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. Doggone it. Thank you for bringing it. So stuff like that, because really we do work with people who are just living in areas that are underserved and they just don't have the money. The stores aren't there. The stores don't stock this stuff. And if they do, it's, and with all due respect, I say this, it's the stuff that comes out of the dollar store, which isn't the quality that you want. The collars aren't good, and stuff like that. So really it's donations and in-kind donations that are out on our website. Food, yeah.
Thank you for asking that question, David. And that's a great way to end on such a happy story. I don't know about you, but I can listen to these stories all day. And I don't know if you can see that my chest is all puffed out from pride, but I am so proud of these people and what they do. And I am so honored to be their colleagues and to be able to work in this field every day and know that these stories are happening. They're not happening just in field services. They're happening all over in this building and outside this building, all over Chicago. And so we couldn't do any of this without you. And that's what I want you to know today. These stories are your stories, as well as they are our stories. And I hope you're as proud and as happy and as touched as I am. So thank you so much, Darlene and Tamara, for a wonderful conversation. And I don't know, I'm just more inspired than ever. So we are gonna have another behind the scenes program on February the 2nd. And this will be about our Community Cares program. So you're gonna hear many, many more inspiring stories about how we are changing people's lives, animals' lives, keeping families whole, making sure that communities are strong and families are strong. And I think you're going to really love that program as well. We'll talk about our pop-up food pantries. We'll talk about our wellness fairs. And then there's a couple of things happening that are brand new and really exciting that we're going to talk about too. And I'm just going to leave that as a dangling incentive for you to come. But some things that I don't know that any other shelters are doing around the country, but certainly things that are very innovative and new to try to deal with the problems that families have, keeping their families whole out in the communities. If there are other topics that you would like to know about, things that we do, please let us know, because we'll have these on any topic you want. So much is going on here every day. It's kind of hard for us to sometimes even think about all of the ideas that you might be interested in. So if there's something you're interested in, let us know and we'll put a program together. Obviously, as I said, these are your stories because you provide us with the tools and the resources so that we can do these things and we can have these wonderful, committed, passionate professionals working on these programs. So we are really thankful. If you've made a gift to us this year, we're grateful. And those who haven't, please consider supporting the Anti-Cruelty Society and our work. We can't do it without you. So in the next day or so, you're going to hear from our development team. They'll follow up with an email with additional resources and other ways to engage with us. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you for being with us today. Bye.